know what you're thinking. Any job can be dangerous. Well, you're thinking like this because you have only seen corporate people working in big, beautiful skyscraping buildings and air-conditioned cabins, sipping black coffee, taking breaks to gossip. But let me show you the world that you are not yet aware of. Try to imagine waking up every day knowing that your job might be your last. Not because you're bored or unfulfilled, but because the very nature of your work is a dance with danger, a calculated risk that few are brave enough to take. Today, we're diving into the world's most dangerous jobs, the ones that pay astronomical salaries for a reason. These are the jobs that push the limits of human endurance, courage, and sometimes sanity. But here's the kicker: behind each of these high-risk professions lies a story so terrifying and unbelievable that it's hard to fathom how anyone could do it for a living. I am not just talking about the obvious dangers. I am talking about the stories that make you question everything. Like why anyone would willingly step into such peril and why the paycheck, no matter how fat, might never be worth it. From the remote oil rigs surrounded by icy, shark-infested waters to the snake wranglers who handle deadly serpents as part of their 9-to-5, these are jobs that come with a side of spine-chilling rumors and jaw-dropping realities. Before we start, make sure you've subscribed to our channel. And trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Number 1. Deep-sea diver. The abyss isn't just dark, it's deadly. Okay, let's kick things off with a job that takes guts. Literally, deep-sea diving. Now, I'm not talking about your casual weekend dive in the Caribbean. No, I'm talking about going so deep that the sunlight is a distant memory. The pressure could crush a car, and the only company you've got is the kind of sea creatures that make you question why you didn't become a librarian instead. So, picture this. You're on a dive, thousands of feet below the surface, in the kind of darkness that makes the inside of a coffin look well lit. You're fixing something, like an oil rig maybe, and suddenly your equipment starts acting up. You've got just enough air to make it back, but something brushes past you. At that depth, it could be anything. A shark? A giant squid? Something else? Now, I'm not saying the Kraken is real, but would you want to find out? There's a story about a diver who claimed he saw something massive moving in the dark, something bigger than any submarine. His equipment failed shortly after, and though he managed to surface, he never dived again. Was it a technical malfunction, or did he see something we're not supposed to know about? That's up for debate, but one thing's for sure: whatever's down there, it's not friendly. Now, the real dangers of deep-sea diving aren't mythical sea monsters, although, who knows? It's the pressure. Every 10 meters you dive, the pressure increases by 1 atmosphere. That's like having an extra person sit on your shoulders every 10 meters. Go deep enough, and it's like trying to breathe with a small car parked on your chest. If your equipment fails at that depth, well, let's just say you won't be around to talk about it. Best case, you're in excruciating pain. Worst case, you're done. Depending on their experience and the risks involved, a deep-sea diver can make anywhere from $60,000 to over $200,000 a year. But here's the question: would you trade your life for a 6-figure salary? Number 2. Oil rig worker life on a floating bomb. Next up, we have the oil rig workers. Now, if you think working on a big metal structure in the middle of the ocean sounds peaceful, let me stop you right there. It's peaceful in the same way that a bomb is peaceful before it explodes. That's right. These rigs are basically floating bombs, and the people working on them are, well, let's just say they have nerves of steel. There's this old story about an oil rig in the North Sea, where workers claim to have seen something massive moving in the water, something big enough to rock the rig itself. Now, whether it was a giant sea creature, a submarine, or just a particularly aggressive wave is anyone's guess. But here's the thing: shortly after that sighting, the rig was hit by a wave so massive that it destroyed parts of the structure. A few men went overboard, never to be seen again. Can you say it's a coincidence? Maybe. But the North Sea isn't exactly known for its gentle waves, and whatever they saw down there probably wasn't too happy about the intrusion. The real danger of working on an oil rig isn't just the weather or the occasional sea monster sighting, it's the equipment and the conditions. If something goes wrong, there's nowhere to run or hide. Remember the Deepwater Horizon disaster? Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Some workers develop what's known as rig fever, a kind of cabin fever that drives them to the edge of sanity. It's not just a job, it's a test of endurance, both mental and physical. The average salary can range from $70,000 to $140,000 a year. Sure, the money's good, but is it worth living on what's essentially a floating bomb? I'll let you decide. Number 3. Snake wrangler playing with death every day. Alright, let's get into something that'll really make your skin crawl. Snake wrangling. Now, I don't know about you, but if I see a snake, my first instinct is to run in the opposite direction. But for some brave souls out there, getting up close and personal with venomous snakes is just another day at the office. These are the folks who laugh in the face of danger, or maybe they're just a little bit crazy. So there's this story about a snake wrangler in India who was called to remove a king cobra from a village. Now, a king cobra isn't just any snake. It's the longest venomous snake in the world, capable of killing an elephant with a single bite. No pressure, right? Anyway, this particular cobra had been terrorizing the village for years, always managing to evade capture. When the wrangler finally cornered it, the snake supposedly looked him dead in the eyes with what could only be described as pure hatred. He captured it. But a few weeks later, the wrangler died, supposedly of a heart attack, but locals believe it was the snake's curse. Now, whether you believe in curses or not, one thing's for sure. This is not a job for the faint of heart. The reality of snake wrangling is just as terrifying as the stories. These wranglers handle some of the deadliest creatures on the planet, and one wrong move could mean a painful, agonizing death. Even if they're careful, there's always the risk of an accidental bite. And here's the thing, depending on where they're working, not every hospital has the right antivenom on hand. That means if you're bitten, time isn't just money, it's your life. Number 4. Alaskan crab fishermen. High seas, higher stakes. Next, let's venture into the icy waters of the Bering Sea, where Alaskan crab fishermen risk life and limb for a shot at the big money. If you've ever seen Deadliest Catch, you already know what I'm talking about. These guys face some of the most brutal conditions on Earth, all for the chance to bring in a haul that could set them up for the year. But with high rewards come even higher risks. There's a legendary tale about a crab fishing boat that got caught in a storm so fierce that the crew thought they were done for. The waves were towering over the boat, the wind was howling like something out of a horror movie, and the temperature was so low that ice was forming on the deck, making it impossible to move without slipping. It was the kind of storm that made even the most seasoned fishermen question their life choices. But just when all hope seemed lost, the storm suddenly stopped being dead calm. The crew survived, but the experience shook them to their core. Some of them never returned to the sea. Was it a divine intervention? A freak weather event? Who knows? But one thing's for sure when you're out on the Bering Sea, the ocean doesn't play games. The reality of Alaskan crab fishing is as harsh as it gets. The hours are long, the work is grueling, and the conditions are beyond brutal. Imagine working in freezing temperatures, with waves crashing over the deck, and knowing that one wrong step could send you overboard. And if you go overboard in those waters, well, let's just say the survival rate isn't great. Crab fishermen can earn anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 for just a few months of work, but the fatality rate is a staggering 300 per 100,000 workers. That's one of the highest fatality rates of any job in the world. So yeah, the paycheck might be tempting, but when the ocean decides it's your time, no amount of money can save you. So, there you have it, some of the most dangerous jobs in the world, each with its own terrifying stories and unimaginable risks. The next time you complain about your job, remember these folks, they're risking their lives every day for a paycheck. But is it worth it? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Thanks for sticking around until the end. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, would you take any of these jobs? And if you're curious about more dangerous professions or wild stories, stay tuned, I've got plenty more coming your way.